Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd, your trusted host, lover of all things small business and expert in admin. Today, we've got a fantastic guest on the show. We're a bit of a guest fest at the moment. We're going to have quite a number of guests coming up in the next few weeks, and we've had some fantastic guests in the last few weeks too. We had Steve Huey from I Fly Flat, once again, best business name ever, talking to us about how to best use your points. We had Christine Pope from who is an expert naturopath, talking about reducing your stress levels at work. And of course, I was talking last week about how to incorporate the old business plan that you had written a couple of years ago when you actually started into your current business now, and how it evolves and should be a working document. So there's stacks of really great podcasts available on the smallbizmatters.com.au website. Make sure you check it out and subscribe to our newsletter too. So let's get started for today. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Kanan.
Thank you, Alexi, for inviting me to the show.
Now, I'm really excited about this show because I've been thinking about this topic for the last couple of years with Small Biz, talking about succession planning for small business. Now, basically, you know, we talk about it in terms of thinking about moving on, but we don't really think about when we need to consider succession planning. And the reality is, as we were chatting about yesterday, you need to plan to finish. You need to think about your succession planning almost when you begin. How long do you think you'll be in business? Why do you think you might need a succession plan? Is there someone in the family that you'd like to see take over your business? Are you of an age where this isn't going to go on forever? Or are you actually building up a business in order to sell it? Is that the point of having the business? So you're an industry leader in business buying and selling, and you're here to talk to us about your expertise on the selling process. And you're actually going to come on the show in the next couple of months or so, and we're going to talk about the buying process.
Yes, that's right.
Because it's huge. It's a huge topic, and it's a really important one for small businesses. Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree with that, because a lot of people out there, you know, when they're looking at selling, they're not too sure what they need to do in preparation for it. And when they're looking at buying, they're not too sure what to look for it.
That's right. So, and that's what we're going to help people out with today. So let's talk about what would be the circumstances in which you might be interested in selling your business? So what will you find with your expertise, with your experience? People come to you for obviously various reasons why they might want to sell. Can you give me some examples?
Well, with my 6 years of experience working in the industry, there are various reasons why people might sell the business. One is they might be looking at retirement. Two is depending on the industry they're in. If they're in hospitality, they might get burned out after 5 years or 3 years.
Yeah, and like teachers.
That's right.
Well, like lots of people in small business. But you reckon hospitality in particular get burnt out?
They do get burnt out quite a lot.
Is that because they just work so hard? I mean, anybody who goes to a local cafe, it's just the same guys all the time. They're working those hours. They're there in the opening. They're there when it closes. And you reckon that's one of the reasons why it's got a high turnover of business ownership?
Yep, that's right. Because basically, if you look at a cafe that open at 7, they might have to be there around 6 o'clock already. And if they are lucky, they close at 3, they will finish by around 4 o'clock. But then by the time when they go back, they still have to do all the paperwork, the GST, the BAS, the boring stuff, you know. And then after that, it'll be the next day, and they wake up and go over the same treadmill again.
It's interesting from your perspective to know what kind of industries do have that high turnover, and I guess it's logical. It's logical, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the importance of not trying to work in your business constantly and how that does affect your ability to sell. But I guess what other sort of side of things is, I mean, for example, when we were looking at buying a home, we had a mortgage broker actually value our property at value our business at a certain amount, and we thought, I never actually thought of that. I never actually realised how much my business was worth. And you were mentioning yesterday that some people get approached by other people to buy their business.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes, like, for example, one of the buyer of my business he used to have a cruise company, and his competitor actually went up to him and go, look, I want to buy you out. You know, how much are you willing to sell to me for? He never thought of it. He owned it for like 15 years, and then the next thing he knows, he actually sold it for a good price. Yeah,
and that's the psychology of it, isn't it? Because I guess we don't think of it. I mean, even as a consultant or someone who is the entire business yourself, you might have 1 or 2 people working for you, but really it's all about you. Psychologically, it's hard to make that transition, and it's hard to visualize your business belonging to someone else or being someone else? How do you walk people through the psychology of that sort of thing when they are approached by someone else to say, hey, I want to buy your business, and they go, well, I haven't even thought about that. Where do you start with the psychology of it?
Yeah, well, first of all, they need to prepare for it, psychology, because a lot of business owners, to them, the business is their babies, and they build up right from scratch, or they bought it from someone else, and they spend a lot of time building over it. So basically, they need to prepare psychology to let it go, and also they'll need to get the information ready as well, like the documentation.
It's funny that expression that you use, letting go, because it's exactly right. You really do feel when you're in your business, it's another child.
Yes,
really, it is, and we invest so much time. It's not even the money, really. I think a lot of people might not have a lot of capital that they need to invest. You buy a laptop, you've got a business, but it's all that time and that love and that nurturing that goes into it.
Yeah, that's right. And also the clients that they care about. They work with so many years with the clients, and to them the clients is their family as well. And
yeah, it's a good point.
Sometimes it's a hard thing for them to let go too. And a lot of actually the business owners that I've talked to, one of the things that they care about the most is that make sure that the clients are being taken care of.
Yes, clients and staff as well, of course, because those people might have been with them for many, many years. They want to make sure. Yeah. Is that something, just as an aside, while we're thinking about the psychology of it, is that something that often people write into the contract? Is the way that you treat your clients, or your clients might be treated by the new owner, or your staff might be treated? Is that something you see commonly, or are people just so excited about selling that they go, well, it's kind of like selling a house. I don't want to say you can't chop down that tree that I love because I don't want to not sell the house. What do you find in your experiences with people like that?
With smaller businesses, most of the time it's not written in the contract, because with smaller businesses, the staff, they might be on casual or part-time as well. But usually what we advise, and also the business owners may advise, is to keep the staff at least for one to 2 years until they get their hands on and they can decide what to do. But in bigger businesses, like medium-sized businesses, yes, some of the key personnel will be included in the contract as well, because they are the key to the success of the business. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that your staff are key to the small end of town as well. Like you said, you guys recommend that people keep on the staff, right,
even if they are casual and part-time, because I mean, let's face it, you might be really organised and really know how to run a business like that. You might be an expert in that field as well. But there's a lot of nuances with clients and with how the business runs and how with other staff, how it works. You've got to make sure you hang on to those people. Yeah, that's right. Because, when the owner is gone, sometimes the staff are the next best thing that they got for the new owner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once the new owner's gone, I think that psychology is probably a good idea to draw a line in the sand and be gone. It's a bit like succession planning when you're volunteering. You've got to plan to end. Yes. Right, Lexi? That's right. I'm talking to myself here. Now, of course, then the other aspect is realising the value of the business. So, like I said, you might have someone who's approached you. You might have some reason to believe that the business is valued at X. Is it a timing thing as well? I mean, are you better off starting to put out the feelers and say, look, I'm interested in selling my business at a certain point? Everyone's got seasonal activity. We've all got highs and lows in our business. Nobody in their right mind who is a consultant is going to sell immediately after the Christmas break, because you've got quite a low period immediately after. Yes. Is it good to sell when times are good, or is it good to sell when times are quiet? Unfortunately, most of the time when people are looking at selling, their timing is not their preferred choice. Yeah. As well, but in general, we do say that at the start of the financial year, if the accountant are able to get the previous financial year report ready, that will be the best time to sell. And usually towards the end of the year is our busiest time as well, because those are the time where a lot of people they may be looking for a business to buy. To start the new year fresh. Maybe they might be sick of working for their boss for that whole year. Yeah, don't we know about that one? That's right. So they don't want to continue anymore in the new year. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I guess you've got. And it's funny, we keep talking about the psychology. I keep coming back to that point, but it's the psychology of wanting to sell, and the timing and what you do with your assets and your staff and your clients that you've built up that relationship with. You've got to sit down and think about it a little bit as well, don't you? That's right. And it also depends on the business as well, because some businesses are sold on trial and some businesses are sold on
documents.
Oh, can you tell me the difference between how those two work?
Yep. So with a lot of small businesses, because they are smaller businesses, they're not as good in keeping the documents.
Yeah.
So in which means a lot of the value of the business, it has to go on a trial basis, depending on like how many sales they do a week and things like that.
Yeah, right.
And when that happens, then it depends on the season of the business. For example, if it's an ice cream shop, you want to try to sell during summertime, because at winter time your shop will look dead.
Yeah.
You have no customers coming in, and then the buyer will get worried and all these things like that. But if your business is based on documents, like profit and loss statement, tax returns and stuff, then the best time will be when you got all the documents ready.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you say a trial period, I'm interested in that. Does that mean that, are we talking 3 months, 6 months, or does it depend on the industry?
Usually, as an average, it's roughly around 2 to 3 weeks.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, right. So you really do want to make sure that you're doing that during your busy period. You don't want to be the dead of winter when you're ice
Most
cream
people will do it at the busy period.
Because I think, when someone's looking at buying a business, I guess they're looking at your expenses. And let's face it, if you're an ice cream seller, using that example again, your rent doesn't go down in winter.
Yeah, that's right.
But your expenses still stay high, whereas your profit might fluctuate quite a lot.
Yeah, that's right. With like ice cream businesses, because it's so seasonal that they usually have to adjust on the staff, but they make a huge chunk of their sales during the summer, in which they can last for them during the winter as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to take a quick break here on Triple H 100.1 FM. You are listening to Small Biz Matters with Alexi Boyd. We're talking all about succession planning and the importance of thinking about it when you are a small business. We'll take a break. We're back after this on Small Biz Matters, Triple H 100.1 FM. So let's get back into the program. We are talking about business succession planning, and we have an expert here, Kanan Lim from New South Wales. Where did it go? New South Wales Business Agents. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. You are bringing us some expertise and a subject we don't think about enough, which is succession planning. Planning for the end, if want for a better word. Now, just before the break, we were talking about what circumstances you might find yourself in when you are selling a business and the psychology of it, why you would want to sell, and how to prepare yourself for that process. Let's talk about the process now. Now, tell me, what do you need to have in place? What needs to be up to scratch in order to be ready to sell? Just let's talk about paperwork first. What do you need to have up to date, and what needs to be completely ready to go?
Okay, when we talk about paperwork, and also depending on the size of the business, we're talking about businesses that's under 1 mil at the moment. Most of the time, the paperwork that you'll need will be tax return and up-to-date profit and loss statement, as well as a lease copy from, for your leases. And if your business is a franchise, then a franchise agreement will be needed as well. Yeah.
And what about your staff? Do you also need to have any timesheets in place, or anything that explains how long people work for you and how much they cost?
Yes, you do need that as well, because buyer will want to look at, how many hours are your staff doing, especially timesheet for yourself as well, because it's important, because buyers will want to know what sort of hours are you working in the business as well. Yeah, and also as well as a list of equipments, what do you own in the business, and what is on leases. They want to understand all those.
So it's really all about how much money you're making and what liabilities you've got on the balance sheet. So what, you've got a piece of equipment, how much of it do you own, how much of it you still owe?
Yep.
And that carries across when they buy the business, doesn't it?
Not the liabilities, because for small businesses, usually when they buy the business. They don't buy the entity that's holding the business. For example, Proprietary Limited holding such and such business trading as blah blah blah. They don't buy the Proprietary Limited. They just buy the business name, and that's what they buy.
But the people who have the ownership of the liabilities, that rests with the
owners.
PTY Ltd.
That's right. Yep.
And that's, I guess, an important point to note, because when we're thinking about this and we don't have any experience in this field, we might think holus bolus, they're just, everything gets picked up and given to the other person, whereas I think it's a little bit more complex than that. There's some aspects that remain with the PTY Ltd, and there's some things that actually do get handed over.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people, they thought that they're buying the whole thing. But usually we tell them you're not actually buying the whole thing because the liabilities doesn't come with the company. So for smaller businesses, you don't need to worry as much about the balance sheet. But of course, this is a subject matter that you should discuss with your lawyer and solicitor about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that we're going to come around a little bit to who to surround yourself with when it comes to good people. But coming back to what you were saying about the importance of having your paperwork in place, I mean, my listeners, with me being a BAS agent with Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H, I'm a fan of making sure people are up to date. And this is an example of where you really need to make sure that everything is hunky-dory with the ATO and with your accountant, that they have all the paperwork, that the paperwork is at hand. And when I say paperwork, I don't mean paperwork, because we should all be aiming to try and become paper-free, but the actual documentation and the evidence, that is very easy to hand over. It's kind of like, I imagine that you'd probably come across a number of businesses that have to do a succession plan without any warning.
Yes.
Because of illness or that sort of thing.
Yeah. One of the hardest things that we face is that the business doesn't have enough paperwork, doesn't have enough supported documents to support the price that they want for the business. You see, because as what we mentioned earlier, a lot of people, when they start the business, they never thought about selling it, which, they always should have an exit strategy when they start the business, because that will help you to organize your business much better. Because especially in terms of paperwork, if you got all the paperwork from day one and you can show all that to the buyer will gain so much confidence about business.
So we're talking about adding value to your business simply by being organised.
That's right.
Music to my ears. See, I'm such a fan of admin.
Yeah, so for example, like one of the business I sold that is at a really short time frame, which is like 2 weeks.
May I ask what the circumstances were for that? Was it because of an illness or?
No, it was just because he had the business for a while, and then he is venturing going to another field. Yep. So he need to clear off and get the capital so he can invest the money into his other venture.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
And then so basically, because he is a very organized seller, and he got paperwork from day one, and he got all the weekly sales report, everything ready. We will manage to attract a lot of buyers in a very short amount of time, and the whole business just sold it in a very short amount of time as well, because of him getting all the information ready.
Yeah, it's like selling anything. More buyers means increased price.
That's right.
More organised. You can show very quickly what your value of your business is, and it looks more valuable. I mean, to have all that documentation would be absolutely fantastic.
Yes, so it's very, very important.
And so the businesses on the other side of the coin that don't have their paperwork in place, that might be a couple of BASs behind, that are still floundering to find all those bits of documents, and they're not all in one place. Like I do talk a lot about trying to be paper free on the program, and trying to bring all of your documentation into one place. Even better is a good accounting software that can all sit in. Yep. But other than that, you've also got your Google Drive, your Dropbox, even an internal server that you can use, but something where it all sits and it's all very nicely organised. That, at the end of the day, is going to mean more money for your business if you're succession planning.
Yeah, definitely. Because imagine, I would say you're looking at 70 to 80% of the businesses out there that is small businesses we're talking about. They don't have the paperwork. So that's
really your experience is the majority of them.
That's right. And that's what the buyers are experiencing. So when they finally found one business that actually had the paperwork ready for them, they're really excited. And they usually have tremendous confidence in that business compared to others that doesn't have paperwork or missing pieces here and there.
Yeah, because there are people out there who do this professionally. They buy a business.
Yes.
They will buy it. They will be interested in the ones that are organised and ready to go. They bring it up themselves and then they sell. This is their business, buying and selling businesses.
Yep.
And those are the ones you really want to attract.
Yes.
Because I guess those guys really know the value of what it is that you're selling. Now, we talked a little bit before about timesheets for staff. Relatively easy to get hold of if you've got a payroll system in place, you've got all your documentation, you've made sure that everybody is employed correctly and getting paid the correct award wage and all the allowances and stuff that go with that. What about yourself? So we talked a little bit yesterday about the fact that a lot of businesses, the owners work in the business with no evidence of how many hours they would do each week because they're not on payroll. They don't pay themselves. Does that put people off?
Yes, it does. It's important that the owners, they can document once again how many hours they work in the business, because majority of the buyers that are looking at buying a small business, they're not experienced business owners. And in the back of their mind, they're not looking at working 70, 80 hours a week. So if you're working...
Well, then don't get into small business.
That's right, because for them, they're used to the 40 hours working life, the full-time working life. They might not look at how many hours a business owners work. But also at the same time, there are a lot of benefits in owning a business as well. That's why still so many people are in the business. But yes, so it is important to document how many hours you work, as much as you can, or at least understand what is the type of work that you're involved in the business. Because when a buyer looking at business, they want to know that, first of all, if you're not in the business, is the business going to go down? That's one of the things they'll worry about.
Key man. Is the key man missing?
That's right.
Does that mean that there is no business?
That's right. And the second thing is they want to know how difficult is your work. Can they handle it?
Can they do it? Yeah.
Can they do it? So those are some of the questions that the buyer will definitely ask.
With regards to having everything in place and being ready and even giving this some psychological thought with the process, what is the ideal lead-in time to get your paperwork in place? Like in your experience, if I'm thinking about this, right, how long do I need to get everything organised, make sure I've got everything in place? I mean, you said you can do this in 2 weeks. For someone who is completely up to date with the ATO and has all the timesheets in place and all the documentation at hand, that's pretty quick. But the reality is, I guess people who aren't very organised or don't have anything planned, how long should they allow for in reality when working in a business themselves? My brain's saying 6 months.
Yeah. We're hopefully shorter than that.
Yeah.
when we can.
But from the moment they think about it to the moment that it actually happens, I think realistically people need that length of time.
Yeah, they do need around six months from the start till the settlement day when they can.
Yeah, not that you should put people off, because it's definitely a relatively simple process when you've got a broker involved and you can have someone to handhold and help you through the process. That's all fine and well. But I just think when you add in the psychology of it, thinking about it, where you sit in a business, are you ready to do it? Okay, let's get our paperwork in place. And you may not go ahead, but what a great exercise for a business to sit there and go, oh, I wonder what my business is worth. Oh, I wonder how I would feel about selling. Oh, I wonder if I can get my paperwork in place.
Yes, it is a good exercise even if you're not looking at selling your business, because there are some businesses that I went and talked to. I asked them, how much are you making a week? They don't have a clue.
I know.
I'm always surprised at it. How can you not have a clue of how much are you making?
Or if you wanted to pay yourself, what could you afford to pay yourself?
That's right.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah, you don't go to work and then work for 40 hours a week and then you don't know how much is in your bank account. You know how much is in your bank account for sure.
But that's not cash flow. A bank account balance is not cash flow.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So all those things that factor in and really what you've got to think about it. And I suppose one of those things that you go through when you are thinking about succession planning is introducing the concept of a management consultant.
Yep.
So that might be someone who comes in and takes over what you do. Can you afford to pay them so you can remove yourself from the business? And that, again, adds value when you're selling?
Definitely. When businesses, when they have a manager in place, that brings the value of the business up quite a lot, because, that means that you actually have a business and you're not just a self-employee. That differentiate in a great deal. You
can still be self-employed. Like, you don't have to be a PTY Ltd to have a manager in place or any staff. That's important to note. But, in terms of being able to hand over with someone in that role that will then take the next buyer through the process.
Yeah, that's right. Because with the manager in place, that means, the businesses are not involved around you anymore as well. Yeah, which means the buyer, when they take over, they're not worried. The risk for them is much less. Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting thing. When you think about that 6-month lead-in time, then what you're doing is actually saying, okay, I'm going to pull myself out. I'm going to train someone up so they can potentially walk ahead of me with the business in hand, and I can almost, cut the umbilical cord from the child and that's it.
Yep.
Off it walks into the sunset.
That's right.
And you stand there with lots of money. In an ideal
Or go on
world.
a holiday in the Bahamas.
Go on a holiday. There's an interesting concept for small business, isn't it? There you go, guys. Let me start your succession planning concept with the idea of going on a holiday.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with that if you're in your own business. It's like, how on earth do I stop for long enough to go on a family holiday? So that's an interesting concept. And you mentioned before reporting. It's not. I would have thought it would have just been this huge, big binder full of paperwork that needs to be handed over and all beautifully, with the tabs and a logo on the front of it. It's not doesn't have to be that complicated, does it?
No, not in the small business. Unfortunately, they're not as organized as some bigger businesses, you see. And in a way, some buyers, they may look at too many documentation, but when that happens, what they usually find is two things. They will never buy the business because the business will never have enough information for them, or they just wasted too much time, and some other people would have bought the business already.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. They have to act quickly, don't they?
That's right, yeah. Because I have ones that is a buyer to keep asking for a lot of information, and I try to get as much information to him as possible. But the next thing is I got an offer from another buyer. And
That's
then
right.
the next time he came back to me and requesting more information, I just go, sorry, we're working on another buyer.
Yeah.
And he missed out. Because in the business world, that's what it is. When you actually see a good business, you need to find out what you need to know for your for buying the business and do your due diligence. But at the same time, you also have to be quick in making decisions as well, because there's not a lot of great businesses out there
that are available to buy.
That's right.
I'm going to compare this to something that we are all very familiar with, and that's buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do your due diligence.
Yep.
You've got to be able to move fast if you find the one that you want.
That's right.
And you've got loads of other buyers around you that can spot a good house at the same time as you do.
That's right. And unfortunately, they probably like the house as much as you do.
Yeah, and have exactly the same reasons why you need this house as they do.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of leads in nicely as to why you would engage with a business broker. I think, to me, this is even, some people do engage with people who buy houses for them. That's okay. But we all like to think that we're clever enough to be able to do this. But I think anybody that engages with buying a business or even selling a business without a broker would be nuts, quite frankly. Because even just talking about, even with my understanding of admin and understanding of the books and all that sort of stuff, there were still a lot of things that we talked about yesterday that I really didn't realise was part of the process. And I think you'd be crazy to buy or sell a business without a broker in hand. So what should people expect if they engage with a good broker? What would they expect to have come with that?
Yep. Look, the most important thing with a good broker is you want to find out how long has he been in the industry. You see, because in our industry, there's actually quite a high turnover of brokers because a lot of people cannot make past the first and the second year.
Wow. Okay.
Unfortunately,
it's a good barometer, isn't it? How long they've been in business.
How long they've been in business.
It's kind of like business coaches. You wouldn't engage with a business coach that hasn't run a business themselves or doesn't have a fully fledged business that they themselves are running, because how could they possibly understand how that works?
Exactly. And as a business broker, it's also important that they have owned a business as well. Like, for example, for myself, I've owned a small business before, so I understand what it is from the start to the end with all the business planning as well and the selling part of it as well.
Is there a professional organisation for business brokers that people should ensure that they are a member of?
Yes, we do. There is a called Australian Institute of Business Brokers, AIBB, and also business brokers, they get the license and the certificates as well from the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very important. I mean, that's the same with anybody that you engage with a good consultant.
Yeah.
And
right.
And obviously through the process it's not just about the business broker. Who else is involved in the process?
You definitely need a really good lawyer. That's one of the most important things.
Don't we all? And what are we looking for when you're looking for a good lawyer for your clients, or someone who is good at looking at buying and selling businesses? We're not talking about the family lawyer who lives down the street, are we?
No, and we're not talking about conveyances or lawyers that does the property as well, because it's a two different thing. They need to be in the commercial law. They need to understand the business in order to understand, the contracts and things of it. Response time from the lawyer is very, very important as well, because especially for the sellers, if you have a lawyer that responds very slowly, your whole deal can drag from 6 months to 8 months to 9 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that sounds to me what we're talking about, a lot of timelines at the moment where, we've got the lead-in time, there's the turnaround time, and there's being able to move quick when you have the opportunity to sell to someone and they've said that they're interested. You don't want your lawyer dragging their feet for 2 weeks.
Yeah, because people do get cold feet. That's just in the psychology of human being. Once they decide to buy something and they put in an offer, the next thing they'll think about is, am I making the right decision? That's the next thing.
And we're not, I know I did mention earlier that there are people who professionally buy and sell businesses, but largely you don't deal with those sort of buyers. It's mostly people who are looking, like you said, consultants looking to come out of full-time work, or somebody looking for a change, a tree change or something different.
That's right.
Yeah, so it is just your Joe Blow. And like you said, it's the psychology. People can just balk.
Yeah, because if they've never owned a business before, they will be scared. It's a very normal process. And that's why it's important to, make the process much smoother and faster for them as well too. And also some people, when they're into buying a business, they might already quit the job. You see, so if the whole process get dragged on longer, then they start to get worried about the income for their family. Yeah, and that makes sense. I think as well, once you mentioned as part of the process is that it's good to have someone to hold your hand through it. Do you engage with like sort of a round table where you've got people sitting down talking to one another? Is that part of it as well? Yes, we do. Yeah, because it is very important on that, because when we first engage the seller, we'll let the seller know what is the whole selling process. And when we talk with the buyer, we'll get an understanding of their background, and we'll also let them know what is it that they want to look at. And after we've done the qualification, then I will sit them down and have a roundtable discussion, and which the buyer can just ask any questions they have with the seller. I'm busting to know what's the weirdest question you've ever heard asked at one of those tables? Or are they pretty normal? They're pretty normal most of the time. I haven't really got a weirdest one. Do people sit down with like a list of questions and then pepper the seller, or it's a bit more casual and a bit more relaxed? Yeah, we do have people sitting down with like a whole 2 A4 pages. It's like an interview. Well, it is an interview, right. I guess. It's kind of like, you're buying into a job. Yeah. Really? But you're the one buying into the job. That's weird, isn't it? You're the one who needs to know the information. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. And in particular, what I find interesting is that you've got that sit down, but how many... do people stalk the other business? Like, if you're buying a house in a neighbourhood, you do the drive-by, you check out what happens at night, you check out what happens in the morning, how many people are parked on the street, how's the parking, how's the lighting, is it really noisy, are there dogs barking? Is it the same thing when you buy a business? Do people stalk it? Yeah, they do. They do. Definitely. Just accept that if you're a seller, that's part of the process. You keep seeing the same car drive around the block and checking you out. There's this guy who turns up for coffee a lot in your coffee shop. They always go, oh, is that buyer the one that's sitting opposite of the, the bus stop the seat there? Yeah, the creepy guy with the glasses pretending to read a magazine. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Look, we're going to take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters. You are listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. We will be back after this. And welcome back to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. And we are working on our businesses big time today. We are talking all about succession planning. We're thinking about the psychology of it and how you go from the very thought. What is it that makes you want to sell your business? What gives you the idea? Is it because you've got a kid who's expressed an interest in taking over, or is it because of life changes or circumstances that mean you need to sell? And I guess the key point that I've really taken away from this today, Kanan, is be organised. Yes. Be ready, because in a way you have to add this as part of your business plan almost from the beginning. Yeah. It'll be a great thing if you can add it, at the start. Yeah. Not that we ever do. Not that I've seen a single business plan from any business plan coach or anybody who says, by the way, have you thought about what's happening at the end of all of this? Yeah. It's just not the part of it. But I think that's what I was talking about last week with planning and how it does evolve. Maybe everyone should sit down and dust off that
25-page business plan they did right at the beginning, which was a total waste of time, and actually look through it and say, right, I'm going to add a new part to the end of it, which is, how old are you? That's a really big thing. How old are you?
Yep.
How long do you want to be doing this for?
That's right. Yeah.
Is it worth anything?
Yep.
Oh, well, one of the things I was going to ask you as well is one of the services that a business broker that would provide is to help value a business?
We don't value a business. We do help in appraising a business. So there is a difference in there because for a valuation, you really would need to get another expert, a business valuer, to value a business.
And that's a different kettle of fish.
That's a different kettle
Got
of fish.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're very serious about it and you go, right, I am going to do this in 3 to 6 months' time, I have got all my paperwork in place. I am up to date with the ATO and my BASs and all of that. My timesheets are up to date with my staff. I have a manager in place so that I can walk away from the business very easily, and I'm psychologically prepared to hand over this baby to someone else. So all of those things are in place, and you go, right, I'm very serious about this. It's a valuer that you would approach just to work out what the value is.
That's right. It depends on the size of the business and what you want to achieve. If it's a smaller business, it's usually an appraisal on what your business is roughly worth in the marketplace
Is sufficient. Yeah.
But if you need it, for example, for some cases like divorce or or someone want to invest into your company, or if someone is going to take over your business, then that you probably will need a business valuer, in which we work with as well in our company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's another good person to have in your
That's right.
in your armory. You've got your good lawyer, you've got your good business broker, you've got your good business valuer.
Valuers as well.
Okay, and I presume that a good business broker would have those sort of connections to be able to assist.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So give us a quick plug. Tell us how people can find about you and where they can find out about your business.
Yep. So, feel free to come to our website, www.newsouthwalesbusinessagents.com.au, and I'm Kanan, so just give me a call, or if you need a free consultation on selling your business, feel free to drop me an email.
And you're nice and local too.
Yes.
We love local people. Look, thank you very much for coming on the program. In a couple of months' time, we're going to have you back and we're going to take the buyer's perspective.
Yep.
So anybody who's interested in investing or buying into a business or buying in business as a whole, you're going to chat to us more about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Love to come.
Thanks everyone for listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. We will be back next week with another awesome guest. And thank you again, Kanan, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Alexi.
We'll see you all next week, Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd. I'll see you then.